Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Apple Hockey, and we're doing it during the day. How about that? Because we've got all three of us together. One of us is in nice and sunny Florida. I won't say who, possibly the guy that's got it in his description that's right there. And let's just get to the introductions. I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams, the face-off extraordinaire for the K-Stars. And I'm joined by the host of the Final Buzzer in sunny Florida, Mr. John Folkowski.
Need a win tonight. Vladimir Tarasenko, Rangers wagon is moving. Let's see if they make another acquisition real soon. I keep hearing names being thrown around that we'll get to in a little bit, but there's a certain name that continues to get thrown around despite the Rangers already making their big moves. So we'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm enjoying life down here. It's just about 79, 80 degrees, somewhere in that range. Life is good.
And, of course, the man who really needed 6 points this week and got to, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
And, Mark, what's the difference between you and Mikey Anderson on the LA Kings?
What's the difference?
Well, one of you didn't just sign an 8-year contract for $4.1 million, so you should take that and laugh because you'll never see that money. But that's the difference. That's the between you two, amongst many others.
Yeah, like an 8-year contract? What? This is what they're just handing those out like candy. It's like Oprah going, you get a contract. You get 8 years. You get 8 years.
You get it. Like, you get it. You get it. You get it.
I love it whenever they do that, especially when there's like a free agent that sets the market like a few years ago when it was Tom Wilson money. But everybody, don't forget, you can always catch our 60-second reviews. I try to get as many of them in as I can. And for the Ranger games, check out the Final Buzzer with that man right there, Mr. John Folkowski.
I may be able to do one tonight. I'm not 110% positive. I'll see what the travel schedule holds for me. So,
and also you can check out more articles this week. We had on how Bo Horvat's new contract might have changed the perception of the New York Islanders and much more. So check those out. And also we are now available on the Hockey Podcast Network. So we're going to start, though, with our A block with the New York Islanders. This week, the New York Islanders 0-1-2 versus the Canucks, Canadiens, and Senators. They're right now sitting in 6th place in the Metro with, actually, I'm sorry, it's not 59. It is 60 points. That's what they got. 61, I'm sorry. And their goal differential plus 6. Sorry, I forgot one.
Mark at it again.
Well, I have it updated right here where I have the standings. We're going to go further into that.
He got that one correct. He didn't get the other one correct.
Yes. I missed one number. That's what happens. Well, I had a late Valentine's Day dinner and everything's going nicely with that. So
yeah, buddy, there you go.
Anthony, the Islanders, I originally had it the next 7 games. The Islanders next 11 games now. Versus the Pens, at the Bruins, at the Pens, versus Winnipeg, versus LA, at Winnipeg, at Minnesota, versus Detroit, versus Buffalo, at Pittsburgh, and versus Washington. Do you look at now? First, does the Islanders season hinge on this week?
Yeah, they have. Before getting into it, just transpired last week. They're only 1 point behind. 2 points behind Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has the games in hand, but they play each other twice in the next 3 games. So yes, Mark, those games are going to be immensely important to the Islanders if they want to catch the Penguins. They beat them the first time they played quite easily. So hopefully, they could have that success again against the Pens. But yeah, these next 3 games, more specifically against the Penguins, could determine their season. You win both of those, you put yourself in a pretty good situation. And then don't forget that they're only 1 point behind Washington. So picking up points against Pittsburgh will help them, pass the Caps too, who only have 1 game in hand and a 1-point lead. So that's the good news. Despite the travesty that just occurred with them this past week, the fact they're still only 1 point out of a playoff spot. It's funny. No one seems to want to just take the ball and run away with these spots. Pittsburgh, Washington, or Florida just got waxed by St. Louis last night. So no one's, and this is why the Islanders are lucky. No one's taking the ball and running away from them. They're still in this. But man, they have to win these next couple of games, and it just really eats at me the fact that they had a 4-2 lead against Vancouver and blew it. They let Montreal tie the game with 3 minutes left, had a power play in overtime, and then lose right after the penalty expired because Barzal made a dumb pass. And then in Ottawa, I mean, they made a rookie goalie look like Patrick Waugh. I mean, I give credit to him. He played really well. But again, they had a power play in overtime in that game, and they didn't convert, and they lose in a shootout, which is no surprise. They've been terrible in the shootout I think they lost 12 of the last 14 shootouts. But, they realistically could have had 6 points for sure. And they came away with 2. So it sucks. But, again, I'm going to try to be glass half full here and just say that they're right in at 1 point behind Washington. They have to win these hockey games. They have to win these games against Pittsburgh. And then, really kind of go from there. But the one thing I'll say is that I think Lane Lambert is starting to become a little bit of an issue here with these trends that we're seeing with the team. Blowing leads was pretty uncharacteristic of them. There just seems like they're not responding to him already, which I wouldn't have said would have happened, just about halfway through a season, but they're not. I mean, they're playing soft in front of the net. I mean, the game against Vancouver, boys, 3 of the 6 Canucks goals, the Canucks players were standing all alone in front of Sorokin, just able to take away his eyes by waving the stick, trying to get deflected, and just being right in front. And no one's clearing out the front of the net. You saw it last night. Ottawa's power play goal that made it 2-1, Brady Tkachuk. He was all alone in front. Scott Mayfield was by him, but he didn't do anything to put a stick on him. And Tkachuk was just able to redirect the pass. So it's something they're not playing tough in front of the net. They're not being hard on sticks and being hard on pucks. And it's costing them. I mean, the game in Montreal, Josh Anderson's goal that tied the game with 3 minutes left. What do you think it was? He was in the slot. He got a stick on a puck and deflected it. No one's tying him up. No one's moving out of the way. And it's hurting them. They really need to clean up that part of the game. And I think that's on Lane Lambert. I really do. I know the players determine the outcomes of games, but from what I'm seeing, blowing leads and whatnot, I don't really have much faith in him. And I will say, if they miss the playoffs, I think he's going to be a one-year coach. I think he's gone. That's my opinion.
Wow.
But before I hand it off to you guys, must Friday against Pittsburgh, must win and get yourself back into a playoff spot. Take that win and then, beat them again on Monday or Tuesday when they play again. And that's not even counting Boston on Saturday, but the games against Pittsburgh, those are the ones that are hugely important.
Yeah, well, you look at that and you say to yourself, when we were having this discussion last week, the Islanders were, 1 point back of them with 4 games in hand. And we were talking about, how the Islanders could take these 3 games. Pittsburgh could lose 1 or 2 of their next few games, and they could lose that games in hand. And now all of a sudden, now the Islanders are fighting an uphill battle. And it's because, like you said, I agree with you. Lane Lambert, how many times have I asked the question of how long is this going to take for them to transition from Trotz's system to Lambert's? Like, how long can we keep saying, oh, transitional issues, transitioning to a new system? How long can we keep using that excuse? Like, we're 53 games in for the Islanders now? I think it's time that they've already learned the system and, adapted to it. These are professional hockey players. So you have to start asking the question. And I think you're right by doing so and bringing that up, Anthony, is, when does the coach start getting put on the hot seat for this? Because this is a better team than the one that Trotz had last year with all the COVID outages or the missing games and the injuries and everything like that. And you just got Bo Horvat on top of that, and your team is still not responding. So, I do agree with you. I see a lot of the same things that I said earlier on with Gerard Gallant and the Rangers. They don't look like they're responding. It looks like he's lost the room. And for a first-year coach to lose the room like that, especially when he's been an assistant for how long under Trotz? Was he all 4 seasons under Trotz?
He came with Trotz the same year. Yeah.
He came with Trotz. So that's bad. This is a guy that should command respect. He's been around the room for a while. So all these guys know him, with the exception of maybe Horvat. You know? So for me, I do agree with you. I think that you have to definitely take a look at Lane Lambert, and I think some of the onus is going to have to start to fall on his shoulders very soon. And I honestly, I never would have thought that you could see a one-year coach, but there's a precedent for coaches coming in 1 year and then getting removed later.
Yeah.
Was it Todd Rudin? What, didn't Todd Rudin only last a year in Washington?
I think he lasted 2 years in Washington.
Was it 2?
Okay. 2 years? Yeah.
But I mean, Mike Keenan in New York. I mean, extraneous circumstances, given
mostly of his own doing.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, it's not like there's no precedent to fire a new coach after 1 year when you see that the situation just isn't working. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I didn't get to watch the Ottawa game, but that Vancouver game and the Montreal game, like, again, Islanders known for real good defensive play, attention to detail, and the fact that they just were letting guys go open left and right in those games. I mean, you said the Josh Anderson goal. One. What the hell was he doing all alone in front?
If I recall correctly, wasn't there 2 guys in front on that?
Yeah, but I think so. I think you might be right about that. But
there was 2. He's just the one that got his stick on the puck. But yeah,
Kirby Doc, I believe, was also there.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the overtime goal was Barzal being an idiot. I'm not going to put that on Lambert or the rest of the team. It's just you can't be that stupid on a power play.
I'm going to make a point about that in a second, Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it just uncharacteristic defensive breakdowns where guys are being left open, assignments are being blown left and right, and you're just wondering, like, are they ever going to be able to play the defensive hockey that they played under Barry Trotz? Because come playoff time with Trotz, this team was an absolute nightmare to play against in the playoffs because they worked you and you had to play such a patient game to break that system, to break the defensive structure. And you don't really have to do that with this Islander team. And even if they make the playoffs, do you, like, as an Islander fan, Anthony, would you really feel as confident with Lambert at the helm at this point? Like, I wouldn't personally. I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, they weren't making these types of mistakes on the regular with Trotz nearly as much as they have with Lambert. So,
well, one of the points I'm going to make is just specifically for the Montreal and the Ottawa games, they had a 4-on-3 power play in overtime, and both times their power play just got stagnant, and you basically could replace them with cones or bubble hockey players. Like, I think in the Montreal game, what really got them in trouble on it was they ended up, the one time guys did move, they moved Barzal and Dobson switched places. Dobson had a couple shots blocked, and then it gets back to Barzal. It goes by him. Yes, it was a bad play. Everybody could kill him for it. And then the defenseman goes in and just scores right after that. So it's kind of like when you get guys that stop moving, it's easy to defend against a team like that. And that's what happens sometimes with the Islanders. And look, maybe the Canucks game was just the Vancouver Canucks saying, let's go out and beat our former captain. Maybe you could throw that away. But man, that Montreal game and then the Ottawa game right after that. I know Ottawa is getting their game together, more on them in the bar talk, but it's just that's no excuse. The Islanders are a better team than this. They got a goalie that's having a great season, and they have to jump from Bo Horvat, who does have leadership qualities. He was the captain of the Canucks, so it is possible to then turn things around. It's just it's getting late early out there, as Yogi Berra would say, and it's getting to do that right now. It's also kind of funny, by the way, because when you work with guys that are as smart as these two are, they jump ahead on the questions, because the next question was going to be, how much blame is on Lane Lambert? But they already answered that one. So, and what's the final word? What do you expect from them next week? You think it's going to be better efforts because it's better teams?
Well, it should be better efforts. I mean, they're playing, they're essentially, playing for their season, because they're getting a lot of gifts right now with teams losing, which is why some of these comments, I mean, are kind of like, I want to say almost like an ignorant Ranger fan. Like, a lot of teams do real poorly. They're 1 point behind Washington. They don't need a lot of games to play poorly to miss the playoffs. They simply need to start winning hockey games because they're right there with the other teams. And that's the point. They're right there. They just need to start winning hockey games and stop blowing leads and play with more urgency, play cleaner, be strong on your sticks, be strong on the puck in front of the net, move guys out. They just have to get back to essential basics. Because, right now, it's not really their offense that's hurting them right now. It's actually more so their defense, which is something I wouldn't think I would have said, a long time ago.
No.
They need to play better defensively and give their goaltenders help, not let guys stand in front of them and take their eyes away, because chances are they have two really good goalies. If they see the puck, they're going to stop it. So I expect them to play a real spirited game against Pittsburgh. They have to, because if they don't, they're not going to catch Pittsburgh. And I'll say to obviously to increase your playoff chances, you want at least 2 playoff spots that are realistically up for grabs. You want to be able to catch Washington and Pittsburgh. If you lose to Pittsburgh both games, you're not going to catch them anymore, and that just leaves one team that you can catch in the Capitals. So you want more options, give yourself a little more leeway. So they have to win the games against Pittsburgh, and then go from there. And I'll say this: if they stay 1 point out or even in a playoff spot come the trade deadline, I think Lou's going to do something else. He's 80 years old. I think this is his last dance. He wants to win and make the playoffs, and I see him doing something because, again, I don't – unless, of course, he wants to walk away. If he's done, then maybe, he won't care. But the fact that he made the Horvat trade tells me that's not the case. So I still think he wants to be a general manager. So I have to assume, like I said, if they stay around this area that they're in, 1 point out or in a wild card spot, he's going to make another move. But this week is going to really – these next 3 games is going to determine which way he goes for sure.
And we're going to discuss those 3 games in one more minute. But also, Anthony, Pittsburgh 3 times in the next 11 games. You're going to get the Capitals too. Detroit, who's chasing the Islanders with games in hand. Buffalo, who's chasing the Islanders with games in hand. LA, who's given whatever day it is, they're the top of the Pacific. And Winnipeg, that's nipping at the Dallas Stars' heels. There's a lot of good hockey that can be played, and the Islanders could also make up some ground by winning all 3 games in regulation against the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, everybody, because then we're going to shift gears over to the New York Rangers, who they made kind of a couple headlines. Fortunately, I have the points right on this one. They're right now sitting at 7 points, 3rd in the Metropolitan Division, plus 37 goals differential. That is just jumping higher and higher. Right now, the Rangers go out to Western Canada this week. They got the Canucks, the Oilers, and the Calgary Flames before they come home for the Winnipeg Jets. Phil, I don't know if you heard, there were some headlines that happened last week. Thursday, that the Rangers got Vladimir Tarasenko, and then Friday he scores on his first shot as a New York Ranger, and then Saturday night in the clash between them and the Carolina Hurricanes, Artemi Panarin scores 4 goals in the game. First, I guess, because we never got your thoughts on the Tarasenko trade, but what is also the effect Tarasenko is having on the New York Rangers?
Well, I was asked to describe this trade on Twitter. Some mutuals asked me to talk about it, and I said that this trade would rejuvenate him, and he definitely looks rejuvenated. There's a smile on his face again. Artemi Panarin is extremely happy, and he's got obviously he's got some jump in his step. He had between those 2 games, I believe he had 6 points in those two games, Friday and Saturday. 5 against Carolina, and then the assist on the Tarasenko goal against Seattle. But Panarin has just been phenomenal since this trade has occurred. There's life in his game again. There's life in Tarasenko's game. He just gives the Rangers more depth. He allows them to push other, wingers down the lineup. Now Jimmy Vesey can't play in your top line anymore. I think they still need another middle or top 6 winger. I think they would be the most complete team in the league if they acquire one of those. But you got a guy, and I remember a bunch of guys were saying this when Artemi Panarin was signed with the Rangers, but he's one of those guys where you get on the ice and you can your chest puffs out a little more because you just got a guy that's a weapon, an absolute weapon, and he fits right in. He could fit with a bunch of different players. If you wanted to put him and Panarin with Trocheck, you could do that. If you wanted to put him and Bennett, or the two of them together, you wanted to keep them separate with whatever center, that doesn't matter. Tarasenko just adds so much depth to this team offensively, and hopefully they can finally get someone like Jake Skidmark out of the lineup, because that guy does nothing but cardio and is just literally skating laps all over the place. But I love this deal because they gave up nothing for it except for one of the worst of the 2 first-round picks this year. You gave up Sammy Blais, who was a nothing piece for them and maligned by Rangers fans everywhere this year. Hunter Skinner, who's a long shot to make the NHL, and what'll probably end up being a 3rd-round pick because the Rangers are going to make the playoffs this year. So you have a team that's rolling like a wagon right now, and they could still make other moves. If you're a Ranger fan, this is a real exciting time to be a Ranger fan. Probably one of the most exciting times since 1994, I would say. So great deal to get him in. The offense is obviously kicking on all cylinders, and now they're going to face another team tonight that lets up a lot of goals. But again, if they're going to underestimate them like they started underestimating Seattle on Friday, then that could come back to bite them, because for some reason this team loves to blow leads for whatever reason. They come back and they end up winning the games, but they're blowing leads, and it's uncharacteristic, because last year they were the come from behind Warriors, and they were just beating everybody. And the third periods were great, second periods were really good. Their first periods were terrible, slow starts, but now they're getting off the good starts, and then they're blowing leads, and then they're coming back and finishing strong. So I will say this, and I said this before in the chat as well, but to this comment from Cora, Gallant needs to start utilizing Tarasenko better. I absolutely agree. That's why I typed it in the chat. I don't like the fact that he's getting, 12, 13 minutes a game right now. This is a guy that should be getting 15, 16, 17 minutes a game. You brought him in for a reason. Get this guy going and get this guy scoring, because 1 goal in 2 games, nice, but you want this guy heading on into the playoffs on a high note, on a hot streak, because if he gets going, forget about it. That's going to be the goal scoring that you're going to need to make differences in the playoffs.
And just to say this, I mean, that's one of the things I had a problem with all along, because Gallant likes to play his horses. He doesn't look away from those guys. And like you said, 12 minutes a game. No, you got to play Vladimir Tarasenko. You have to play him. Anthony, what are your thoughts so far on the Rangers week?
I mean, they added a great player. Tarasenko is a guy that does seem rejuvenated playing, in New York. It's a place he wanted to be. We all talked about it. He was going to waive his no trade for this, New York, New Jersey area, Rangers, Islanders, Devils. So he's on a team that he wanted to go to. He's playing with a friend in Artemi Panarin, and it makes the Rangers definitely more dangerous offensively. I said that, they needed another top 6 guy. They got him. And like Phil said, they didn't really give up much to get him. And they are rolling right now. It seems like, something catastrophic happens, they're going to be locked in that matchup with the Devils in the first round, the 2-3, which will be a good matchup. But for now, they're playing really good hockey. For them, they have their eyes set on trying to catch New Jersey, so this way they can have the home ice. But and I think they're not done either. I think they're going to add a couple more pieces at the deadline. I still think a guy like Tyler Mott's a possibility, but yeah, they're playing really good hockey right now. And for them, it's just about maintaining it, make sure that you stay within your game the way they're playing, because points are really important right now. You got to get every point you can. You want to catch New Jersey, because, the Devils are a good team, and obviously playing at home makes them even better. So if in a perfect world, you want to finish second and you want to draw Jersey. I don't think anyone's catching Carolina, but yeah, the Rangers are in a really good spot right now. I expect Chris Drury to be, active, maybe a little creative, find ways he could add some more players here. But I think he pushed the right buttons with getting Tarasenko, because maybe if he waited a little longer to the deadline, maybe a team like New Jersey could have jumped him, or even the Islanders, being that, he wanted to come to one of the 3 teams. So he definitely made the right move, because, waiting around for Kane, if you listen to a lot of the pundits, that, he still hasn't technically, him and Taves really made up a decision on what he's going to do. And I think waiting for a guy who is maybe a little banged up right now, you could kind of left you holding the bag at the end of the day come the deadline. So I think he really did make the right move by jumping on Tarasenko early here.
What I love about what this move does, and the way that they've actually have structured the lines, is if they're going to stack Panarin and Zibanejad together, now you have Tarasenko. Now that's a super line. Go get it, boys. And now they're also moving Zibanejad away from being the matchup center. They're trying to use Trocheck to be more of the matchup guy. I think, Phil, you talked about it 2 weeks ago, having that line of Kreider, Trocheck, and Veezy. That could be a shutdown line for you. And now then you have the kid line to go against whatever the third thing is. And if the Rangers just make 1 or 2 more moves regarding a couple lineup changes, I'm hinting at that because we're going to be going to that in bar talk. But it's that this could be a really dangerous team and very soon. And people forget about Mikkola. That guy, if he's the answer to the Rangers' prayers on their bottom pairing, that could be really something. And now you're talking about a team that can go toe to toe, not just against Carolina, not just against New Jersey. And by the way, now you have to worry about New Jersey because Jack Hughes is this great player, and Jesper Bratt you got to worry about, and Nico Hischier is up to shut you down. So that's another.
Well, we don't know how long Jack Hughes is going to be out for. They're saying week to week, and we don't know how Jack Hughes is going to be back for the playoffs. If he's hurt with an upper body injury, the memo to every team that faces him is going to be hit him as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Make his life hell. And that's going to wear and tear is going to take an effect not only on him physically but mentally. And we're gonna see his mental toughness tested come playoff time because every team's going to be gunning for him, knowing that he's coming back from an injury.
Kind of sad that it all happened right after Wayne Gretzky said that's a guy that could catch Connor McDavid. Anthony, you were going to say something?
Yeah, and regarding the Devils, I when you talk about making moves, don't forget that I expect them to add a big piece to the deadline too, more specifically in the form of Timo Meier. So the Devils aren't going to stand idly by. I think they're certainly going to make a play for somebody, whether it be Brock Besser if they miss out on Timo Meier. But I think they're really have their eyes set on Meier. Kevin Weeks mentioned it yesterday. There's just so much smoke around them and Meier. I don't know. I see him going there, and I think that would be a big addition for the Devils going into the playoffs.
Well, we're going to have more. We're going to have more talk about Timo Meier coming up right now in a moment. Actually, I should say. But everybody, don't forget always to appease the YouTube gods, like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more information. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering, especially in the next couple of weeks, because there is going to be a lot that we're doing. Don't forget to smash that like button as well. Because also we announced this a couple weeks ago, but we are going to be doing a trade deadline special, which is going to be hours of hockey talk. Plus, we're going to be doing giveaways that day. So make sure you're watching that because it's going to be a great time. Actually, before I forget, Phil, there's one more thing, because the other news of this week, Vitaly Kravtsov demanded a trade yet again. There's plenty of blame to go around everywhere, in my opinion, but I want to get yours first. Who's the blame?
You know what? He's played well, and I don't understand what he has to do to stay in the lineup. Like, if you're looking for him to be a gritty North American checker, that's just not his game. That's not what you're going to get out of this guy. This guy's a skilled player. I mean, asking him to be that is like trying to put a round peg in a square hole. What I don't understand what this organization's fetish is with, trying to get that out of these types of players. I get it that they have to understand the defensive game and, play a 200-foot game and not abandon the defensive side of the puck. But it just doesn't make sense for them to continue to push this agenda with players and just it should be a meritocracy here, and it's not. And you have guys like Leschyshyn who continue to play despite doing nothing. Sammy Blais played despite being a net negative. I mean, Barclay Goodrow makes boneheaded turnovers, and there's never an ounce of consequence for anything that guy does. So for me, it's just like, what are we doing here? Why is it that all these young kids come up and there's just always problems with them? And then you have these fans that turn around and defend the organization, and then they bring up guys like Filipino. So you're the shining example of what you want to point out to argue against me is a guy that took 6 years to develop. That's really your gotcha type point. I mean, this is not. It's not good. Maybe could Kravtsov have been better? Sure, but he's actually played somewhat well. And then even when he plays well, he gets scratched inexplicably. So and then the logic for it is not good enough. And then you turn around and an interview in the next day and you say, oh, he's a top 9 forward. Okay, so if he's a top 9 forward, use him on your third line.
Yep.
Like where see Gallant talks out of one side of his mouth in one sentence and then the other side of his mouth in the next sentence. And it's constant contradictions. And you know what? He just needs to be traded at this point. I'm going blame wise. I'm going to say probably about 60-40 team. 60-40 team. He needs to be better, but they have not put him, and they haven't done it with other players too. If it wasn't the case across the board with the young players, and they were putting the young players in proper positions to develop and succeed, then you know what? Okay, I could look back at Kravtsov and being like, hey, you know what? This is an issue with just him. But it's not. It's all their young players all the young forwards, I should say, that have had problems over the last few years or so. So I'm going 60-40 on blame on the team, and Kravtsov needs to be dealt. Honestly, if I'm the Rangers, I go back to St. Louis, and I ask them if they would want Kravtsov in a second for Ivan Barbashev, because I think Ivan Barbashev could come right in and help the Rangers out big time. And I'm not expecting a 25-goal, 60-point season out of Ivan Barbashev because, you know, obviously he's a UFA or anything like that, but I don't think he's going to continue to shoot at the percentage he shot at last year, but he fits right in on that second line. He's a more talented version of a guy like Jesper Fast, who can come in and play. If you want to stick Panarin on that second line, you want him in Trocheck on that second line, that's the line that you want. Okay, cool. Then you can put Kreider, Zibanejad, and Tarasenko together as your first, your kid line as your third, and then you could finally get Leschyshyn out of the lineup, and your fourth line could be something like VC, Gauthier, and Goudreau at center. So,
well, I do think that a lot of the blame, Kravtsov does not get enough blame out of this because, yes, he exercised his right to go back to Russia. Yes, he did. The opportunities were there for him 2-3 years ago. All he had to do was just go to Hartford for a little bit. He would have been called up right away because of COVID restrictions. They constantly had guys coming in and out of the lineups. That's just one thing. That. I mean, I also just don't see it with Kravtsov. I mean, everybody's arguing like they're getting rid of Buchnevich right now, and you know my opinions about that. But it's just he's not even anywhere near the Buchnevich range yet. Like, Anthony, do you think that they jerked him around a little bit too much, Kravtsov?
I think the blame kind of goes both ways. I also think that he had a little bit of like an entitlement type of way about him, I think. But the Rangers also did jerk him around a little bit. I think he probably thought he had a spot locked down, and that wasn't the case, which I think rubbed him the wrong way the first time around he requested a trade. But at the end of the day, you have a player that's disgruntled. It's better for the organization and the player to just move him at this point. I mean, my guess is that he's either going to go like in a package type deal for like a guy like Barbashev, or they're just going to trade him for a pick of some kind, or maybe even a kind of disgruntled, underachieving first rounder for another one type deal. But I mean, the sooner they move him, the better, though. Just get on with it.
And Phil, you said it best, and I said this on Twitter the last couple of days. This is just like seeing a couple that comes in, or anytime you're hanging out with them, all they do is fight. And you're like, why are you two together? And it's just that it's sort of that point. You're just like, move on. Move on for the benefit of both of you. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Everybody, that's it for our A block right now. We are going to have a quick message from DraftKings and then do some bar talk. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Valid one per customer. Minimum $5 bet. Minimum $5 pregame moneyline bet. Bet must win. $150 issued as 6 $25 free bets. Free bets are not cashable and cannot be withdrawn. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. Everybody, once again, I promise that's going to get shorter. I just didn't.
That makes me.
I think it's when I get to the 100 times speed. By the way, there's 40 of you watching us right now. Thank you very much.
I love it.
Yeah, and I think you guys could see my discomfort just listening to it, just in the green screen. There's 40 of you guys watching right now. Thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget to hit that like. Let's do some bar talk.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so confident you're buying everybody around? So I'll just take a beer, or oh my God, just get me a shot. And by the way, if you ever need any liquor, why go to the liquor store where you could go to Drizly? Just make it a Drizly night. They'll bring the liquor to you. Link is in the description down below. All right, so play along the comments below, and we're going to start with the New York Rangers again. And Phil, I alluded to this earlier in our A block. The New York Rangers need a legit fourth line center.
I'm going to say beer. I don't know if it's as much center as they need another winger. Leschyshyn can't be in the lineup. He can't. He's terrible. He's doing laps out there. Guy is like a worse version of Brett Howden. I never thought I could actually say that. I don't know how this guy continues to stay at the NHL level, other than the fact that Gerard Gallant must love him for whatever reason. I don't know why. But
played against his dad. Maybe that was it.
I don't know. Maybe Gallant friends with Curtis then. I don't know. But he doesn't belong in the NHL. He doesn't. He's just bad. And you need to get at least, I would say, a winger. If you want to move Gaudreau over to wing when you get a center, fine. But I'm going to say beer just because of that.
Okay. Anthony.
Yeah, I'm going to go beer. I think they could use a Nick Bonino type guy, but Tyler Mott, but I don't know if it's enough to the point where I would go around, because I think you could just do what Philka just said. But I do think they could use another legitimate NHL, proven bottom six forward for sure.
Well, I'm going to actually buy around on this, because you need to improve that fourth line. If they improve that fourth line, they are a dangerous team in the playoffs. And I do mean the word dangerous, though Tampa Bay is looking like they're dangerous right now without any additions. But one guy that I said I would target, Sam Lafferty. I know he had the incident with
Filipino.
Yeah, no, not just that. He also had the incident with Igor in the game that I went to in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
He ended up
that's it.
running him there. So even though those incidents were still there, it's just, it's something that they need to improve that fourth line, and then they can figure out everything from there. We're going to go over to the New York Islanders. I just have to fix this in a second. But right now, Anthony, you look at the wild card standings. There they are right there. The New York Islanders season will be decided within the next 3 games.
Yeah, round. You're talking, if they lose to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh can possibly build a 6-point lead on them with games in hand. It would be over at that point. The flip side, if the Islanders can manage to take 2 from Pittsburgh, they could be 2 points up on them, or depending even what they do against Boston, maybe 4 points up on them. So yeah, it's a round for sure. Because again, not only could they pass Pittsburgh by beating them, but they could also take advantage of a weak Washington team right now that's been losing. They're without Alex Ovechkin, who's mourning the loss of his father, which my condolences to Ovechkin's dad and his whole family. But he's away from the team. That makes them even weaker. They're playing the Panthers, and then they got the Hurricanes in the outdoor game, so it's not really going to be easy for them. So, the Islanders have a real shot here to get ahead of Pittsburgh and Washington. And again, if they want to make the playoffs, it's a must win. At the very least, to win both Pittsburgh games. They don't necessarily have to win against Boston, but they got to beat Pittsburgh both games for sure. So it's round. This is a layup.
Philk.
I wouldn't say this is a round. I'm going to go beer here. Yeah, I just think that you have somebody like Washington, and the Washington Capitals just don't strike me as a team that's stable right now. I know that Darcy Kemper is tied for the league in shutouts, but I just don't think of him as a great goaltender. John Carlson's out in Washington. Alexander Ovechkin is probably, my condolences to him as well. Not in the right frame of mind right now, losing, his father. That team is an old, aging team that's dealt with injuries all year. I don't think of them as a very strong team. I could easily see them slipping and missing the playoffs. So I don't think if they, I think you're talking about these next 3 games. I don't think the next 3 games decide the season. If you want to talk about that 11 game stretch that you were talking about, then yeah, that's going to decide the season. I think. I think it's those 11 games that you mentioned before that really, really, really are going to tell the story going forward. But the next 3 games, no, I think there's still more than enough time. And Washington, to me, comes off as a very, very weak team. Even Pittsburgh, they're having so much issues in net. They can score, but they can't defend, and the goalies can't stop a friggin' beach ball. Like you could put a gigantic bomb in the beach ball and they wouldn't stop the beach ball. So it just, for me, I don't know. I don't trust either of those teams. I think when you have a solid defensive unit like the Islanders do and a world-class goaltender, eventually, things will, they'll righten their way and they'll correct their direction. They'll get on course, I think. But I trust the Islanders more than I trust the other 2 teams in front of them right now.
I just want to say real quick, it's a good thing you're doing the Florida trip now, where it's good weather in New York. When 2 weeks ago, when it was single digits, we all would have been really envious as the birds are tweeting in the background. I'm going to shock everybody. I'm going to say shot on this, and the reason why is because I'm not sure if the Islanders really could catch the Penguins at the moment. Not certainly with all those games in hand, but they could definitely catch the Capitals. And yes, as some of the guys are pointing out, even Rob G says it in the comments below, Buffalo's got games in hand, Detroit's got games in hand, and Ottawa's got games in hand. But you also got to win those games in hand, and they're also going to start playing each other.
I don't trust Ottawa. I don't trust Ottawa, and I'm not sure if I trust Buffalo. They're another team
Buffalo,
that this guy's can't stop the puck. And then
this is Rob G. Buffalo just lost 7-2 to Calgary, and then I think they lost 5. Didn't they just lose to LA like 5-0 or 4-1? Buffalo's got trash goaltending. Yeah, they got games in hand.
Yeah,
but they mean absolutely nothing if you don't win them. So 100% jumping New York Islanders. Just
I don't think they're 100%. I don't think they're 100% jumping the New York Islanders. And he's an Islander guy, by the way, Rob J. But
I personally think that the spots are really down. Aside from the teams outside the playoff spot,
Rob G wasn't an Islander guy. Florida and the Islanders. I mean, you want to talk Ottawa, because as it is, you talk about how it's going to be hard for the Islanders.
Wild card too.
Detroit, you're talking about Detroit and Ottawa have to pass like 5 teams to get in. I think it's even ridiculous to even entertain Detroit or Ottawa as back in the playoffs.
I'm not entertaining Ottawa at this point. Ridiculous. I don't trust Ottawa.
That's not happening. You're not passing 5 or 6 teams to get into a playoff spot.
I think Ottawa's a couple years away. Anyway, I don't trust their goaltending, and I don't trust Detroit.
Well, bless you, by the way. I originally had Ottawa and Detroit are back in the playoff race, but I just deleted that on the rundown because clearly you can't get that back in. But guys, by the way, the Toronto Maple Leafs, $1.13 million of deadline cap space. They have $72.6 million committed to 11 players next season. Wow.
Yikes.
Is one name that pops up on everyone's radar is Timo Meier. And Timo Meier would be a rental if he goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anthony.
Yeah, it's around. I'm surprised that they're even being talked about in terms of Meier, but they are. And I mean, I guess it makes sense. They're so desperate to have playoff success. I guess they're willing to sacrifice assets and then flip him in the summer and get such assets back. But it's actually really surprising to me that they could pull something like this off. But I mean, I suppose they can if some of the insiders are talking about them being in the running for Timo Meier. But I just don't know if it's smart to trade for a guy like Meier and then use him as a rental, even though he's technically not. I mean, I get they want to win, but I think they could spend their assets better in terms of defense. But just in the context of this question, yes, he would round. He would absolutely be a rental. I don't think there's any way they could afford to retain him unless they moved William Nylander or John Tavares in favor of him and then re-signed him. But I don't see any way the Maple Leafs can keep Meier going forward if they do acquire him. So this is a round for sure.
Phil.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be around. I mean, there's no way they can actually do this. I would say this is a layup in that regard. Whether or not I actually see Timo Meier going to Toronto is another story, because the word's been out there that they don't want to give up a first rounder or a top prospect like Matthew Nyes. They don't want to give up those types of assets. So I don't see Timo Meier going there. But if they somehow pulled that deal off, then yeah, they're more than likely flipping him. Or to me, what I would do is I would end the William Nylander experiment in Toronto. You have too many players like that. You bring in a guy like Meier, who's a big body and heavy guy who could, he'll play playoff type hockey. He'll score and stuff, and he'll bring a physical edge to his game. I would move Nylander out for something, and that would keep Meier, because it just, to me, it makes a lot of sense. You could recoup assets that way, and you get a guy that fits more of what you need. I think they need more of a guy like a Wendell Clark than they do another guy like William Nylander, who's been kind of soft. But yeah, you know what? I get this comment here from Core as a joke, but when you have a guy that's a top prospect like that you're really high on, you want to do anything you can to hold on to, especially when your cupboard's going kind of bare. I mean, they have guys like him and then Rodion Amirov, who are probably their top two prospects, I would say, at this point. Because Nick Robertson is kind of falling down their depth chart a little bit. But
he ain't as good as his brother.
No. He's probably never going to be as good as his brother. His brother's insane. But, yeah, so I don't see Timo Meier happening for Toronto, but if it did happen, I would move William Nylander in the offseason.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, them even getting him anyway, but I know that they've been talking about it. But, Phil, you just diagrammed how they could do it. You can get Timo Meier, so it's a beer for me, by the way. You can get Timo Meier and then go off and move William Nylander in the offseason or at the draft. Bang, there you go. Now you have the room and space to get Meier in, probably under about $9 million. But it's they got a lot of free agents on that team next year. As I said, 11 players are getting paid $72 million. And here's another question. The one reason why you might consider it as a rental, but then reinvest in them, Anthony, because next offseason begins Austin Matthews' watch.
Mm-hmm.
And they might want to move him before next season starts. If that happens, I think it's crazy to even think about it. There should already be a contract right there ready for him to sign. And I'd be throwing contract at him like dollar bills, y'all, to make sure that he stays. So that's just that. Let's move on and let's go to the news out of this week. Vladislav Gavrikov and Jacob Chychrun are being held out awaiting trades. First off, by the way, guys, I hate that trend. I understand it. I hate that trend. But Kings should opt for Vladislav Gavrikov instead of Jacob Chychrun. Phil, go ahead.
I'm going to say shot. Yeah, I know it's going to cost less to get Gavrikov, but I think Chychrun actually fits what they need more than Gavrikov does. Chychrun's a good two-way defenseman. I'm not sold on him being a 50, 60-point defenseman like he was going to be in 2023, 2021. But I think Gavrikov is a good defenseman, but he strikes me as more of a number 4, 5 type than Chychrun, who's more like a 2, 3, maybe a number 1, depending on the team. So I'm going to say shot on this.
Anthony.
I'm going to go beer. I think Gavrikov is sought after by a lot of teams right now. Actually, I think he does move the puck well. He's definitely more of a defensive defenseman, but I like the way he moves. And I know for the Kings, you don't want to give up Brent Clark. You could probably get Gavrikov without having to do that. But I don't know. Chychrun is the better player overall, but for the Kings to give away a player like a highly regarded player for them and in the long term, I don't know if it's worth it. I think they just keep growing with the way they're growing by stockpiling picks and prospects because they're having success with what they've been doing. So to steer kind of not blow it up, but to make a big move for Chychrun when there's a guy like Gavrikov out there, I think there's merit to that too. So I'll go beer.
By the way, thanks to the 53 of you that are watching right now, make sure you're hitting that like button. And I'm actually going to go shot on this one because I think what the LA Kings need is Jacob Chychrun. They need an offensive defenseman to really complement their game. We're going to give you a situation where they possibly could deal for Jacob Chychrun in a few moments in our Who Says No section. And I think Gavrikov is more like a depth defenseman versus Chychrun. But then again, like people are losing their minds on Chychrun. I saw some guy on Twitter just say the Rangers should trade Shesterkin for Chychrun and Vejmelka. And I'm a big defender. I know. I went Philk. I went to it. Either he's doing a great troll job, or he's really just insane. That's you got to be out of your mind in order to think that. Because I broke it down and said, so you want to get a guy, you want to get rid of the reigning Vezina Trophy winner for a guy that's had one good season and often injured, and a goalie with okay stats.
His stats would be really good if he was on a better team. Vejmelka's just incredible. But
I like Vejmelka. I think he could be a franchise piece for them. But it's just,
I wouldn't risk that though to get Chychrun, and not only that, but you're not gaining much cap space by doing that, if any at all. And the Rangers are going to have to make other moves. I mean, I get it. The defense would just be stacked if you added Jacob Chychrun to that mix, but I don't understand why you would want to go from a sure thing to a guy that's still got something to prove.
Yeah. And also, by the way, he's not getting playing time over Adam Fox. So what the hell's the point?
No, and he wouldn't. Chychrun's a left side defender. So he would either be on that top pairing with Adam Fox, which allows you to move Ryan Lindgren down one. Or you could even move Ryan Lindgren down to your third pairing at that point, play him with Braden Schneider. Your third pairing just becomes rock solid, and your second pairing is still Miller and Trouba. Like that's pretty damn good depth on defense right there. But I don't think they would do that just because they're not going to break up Fox and Lindgren, who have played together for years.
Well, I am looking forward to the trade deadline and the end of the Jacob Chychrun trade deadline conversation talk, because it is getting way too annoying.
I have an honorary bar talk topic actually. And
all right, well, let's do our scripted last one, and then we'll do that one. Okay. Because we're going to talk about the Big Apple Hockey trade deadline show, which is going to be March 3rd. We're going to have giveaways and other stuff for that. We're getting it all together, everybody, because it's going to be a big day. Hopefully there's still plenty of trades to be made, because if they're holding out Chychrun and Gavrikov already, they could be on the shelf for 2 weeks. But the NHL trade deadline is the best of the trade deadlines in sports. Anthony, I'll start with you.
I think it's I don't follow the NBA, but because of Twitter, I do see some of the action that goes down. I know the NBA is known to have like absolute blockbusters at the trade deadline. All these huge ass trades happening. So I'm gonna say beer just because I think the NBA deadline seems to be a little more crazier. But I mean, I think the NHL trade deadline is better than MLB and NFL for sure. That I'm pretty certain of. But I think the NBA is the best one just because of how many big trades usually happen on it. But I would like to see the NHL get see some big blockbusters in the next next 2 weeks leading up to the deadline because it's exciting. But yeah, that's kind of how I view it. So I mean, I guess I could put that as a beer shot. I'll say beer.
Okay. Phil, what do you think? You haven't covered it with me last year.
I'm going to say round. I think this is the best one. The baseball deadline is a little weird because there's the waiver deadline afterwards, the waiver trade deadline, and that just kind of throws everything off. So it's like it's a weird way. It's kind of like almost like how in baseball they have a soft cap and not a hard cap. The NHL, there's a hard cap and there's no moves really after that 3 p.m. deadline, and that's it. Like moves might come in because they're submitted and they're waiting to be approved, but I mean the submittal deadline is 3 p.m. and that's it. So usually by 5, you have an idea of all the trades that are in, or even sometimes by 4. So I'm going round on this.
You know what? The NBA can make more headlines with their trade deadline, and it's a little bit further out. MLB, they can make big moves, but then it's like, well, if it doesn't happen now, you always have the waiver trade deadline. The NFL is trying to make their trade deadline into something. It's basically still nothing.
Yeah, but it's always too early in the season.
Yeah, and also they're trying to get it to be up, but unless Jerry Jones is freaking out, or this year I think the Miami Dolphins threw picks around, I'm actually going to go round on this one. I think it's the best. We did it last year, and it's going to be us this year, Anthony, and it's going to be hopefully we get Phil on for a little bit, but it's going to be, again, you get to that final hour and just trades are coming in, rumors are going off left and right. You go last year, the Rangers went from Ricard Raquel to Andrew Kopp and Tyler Mott in a span of 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it amazing.
Yeah, so, trade deadline. I mean, listen, I'm a hockey fan, so to me, it's the best because exciting. I answered in the best in terms of because the NBA has steals the headlines, like you said. That's why I said that. But overall, I mean, NHL trade deadline is great. It's one of probably the most exciting day of the hockey calendar year, aside from free agency, depending on what you like better. But I love the NHL trade deadline
or the draft. The draft is in there too.
Yeah, the draft is good.
Draft will probably be number 3 behind the other 2 for me.
Yeah. And we had a great time covering the draft this year. Yep. We weren't even there yet because I don't think I can. I mean, by the way, that draft coverage. Thank God they had so many trades. I had to do at least 10 shots that day, so that was awesome. So
we have one more topic that I added to VAR Talk because I just have to because I know how much Marc loves his sagas, but the Jacob Chychrun saga is more annoying than the Jack Eichel saga. Marc,
all right, I'm starting this one. I'm buying around on this. I have to buy around. Oh my God, this has been. He has been on the trade block for it feels like an eternity, and they've sat him out. They made sure we were talking about this yesterday. It feels like they're healthy scratching players and trying to manage assets. They've been doing that with Chychrun for at least 2 years. Like it's sort of like, oh hey, so you're injured. Don't worry, take another 2 weeks to come back. We'll see if we can trade you. And every day there's a different team that's trying to get him. It's Ottawa Senators or LA Kings. Finally, just deal him to the Kings. Deal him somewhere. Deal him to the KHL. I'm tired of hearing about him.
I thought Marc was going to blow a gasket. I really did this for a reaction.
Clearly,
I thought Marc was just going to lose his shit. So.
Oh, it's just so annoying. It really is so annoying.
He dislikes Jacob Chychrun.
Anthony, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm gonna go a beer. I know I talked about Chychrun for a while, but the Eichel one was unbearable. And then there was the whole wrinkle that they disagreed on how he should, repair his neck. That added an interesting aspect to it, and it seemed like it was going on forever. And
The removal of his captaincy.
Yeah. The Chicker's just
Yeah.
funny because he gets under your skin, but I don't think it's as annoying as the Jack Eichel one. That's maybe to you it is, but
Yeah. I mean, well, then again, I did that hour-long stream of based off was it Rick Carpinello's tweet? I think it was that it was, oh, don't be surprised that Mika Zibanejad
Yes,
is in
it was
this
Rick
trade.
Carpinello.
Oh my
Ugh.
God.
Thank God.
You know what? I might need to change my answer. I'd still stick with this one because it's still going on. Philk.
I'm going to say shot. The Jack Eichel saga was really bad, and the Buffalo Sabres fans were like unbearable. We had those guys that were coming into our streams and basically just like trolling at us and like basically like talking down to us and all this other crap. And I'm just like, nah, it's like get out of here. Like,
Yeah, I know
that type of crap. So
absolutely, it's just one of those things where I can't help but just say no. I love it when they also say, well, we want your garbage players. Doesn't matter if you want the garbage players. You might have to take the garbage players because you got a guy that's not even playing right now. All right, everybody, that is the end of the Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice to drink.
Thanks.
So don't forget, if you want the liquor store to come to you, go to Drizly.com. Actually, click the link below to go to Drizly, start an account, and they'll bring everything to you. Parties, whatever. It would have been great for Super Bowl last week, but I didn't have the sponsorship until then.
I love how you plugged it during Bar Talk, though. That was like the perfect way to plug it.
It is the perfect thing to do for that.
Yeah.
And there's still one more we could plug in a moment, but we're going to ask the question on trades that are going to be made, and we have to ask who says no.
It's a no for me, dog.
No.
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 All right, because everybody, this is the brainchild of Mr. Anthony Rocco right there, and
let's just stress that I know we call the segment "Who Says No," but it actually could be a case where the answer is no one says no, and it's a yes.
Yes, well, we do have that as an option. Because by the way, speaking about plugging lots of things, I went to Hockey Heaven yesterday because I went to Pure Hockey because I had to pick up some stuff. I ended up spending $250. Need some hockey equipment? Check the link in the description below. And I'm going to be making something up for that soon. So welcome to Big Apple Hockey's Who Says No, where we decide who declines these mock trades. Play along in the comment below. So we're going to start with one that was suggested yesterday in our group chat and one that was said by one of our panelists today. To the St. Louis Blues, Vitaly Kravtsov, a second-round pick, and a fourth-round pick for Ivan Barbashev and 50% retained. Mr. LaRocco, I turn to you first.
I actually think this is pretty fair. I mean, I did see that the Blues are, asking on Barbashev. They could get a first, but overall, you get a former first-round pick, a second, a fourth, for a guy who's going to be UFA, so 50% retained isn't really a big deal for him. So I actually might say, let's make a deal here. I guess it really depends. If there's a team that offers up a first, then maybe they say no. But overall, I do like the framework of it.
So if you haven't caught that, what Anthony is saying about this trade,
To be fair.
Phil,
I think this goes through.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So perfect. Love it. But I think this goes through. I think this is what it's going to look like to get someone like Barbashev. I don't know if anyone's going to necessarily offer a first-round pick for him. Markets are usually very volatile, and everything's always a fluid situation, so that could change. I mean, we've seen someone like Paul Gostad return a first-round pick.
And that was insane
when I saw that.
Provided that was one, it was a bad trade, and two, there were other pieces involved to make that happen. But never say never. I just don't think that it's going to be a first-round pick for Barbashev. I think it's going to be a second, a good prospect, and maybe an additional lower-level prospect, or a lower pick like a fourth. And I think St. Louis will have no problem retaining 50% to make it work to help out a team like the Rangers in this instance, or whatever team ends up trading for him.
I'm actually going to say this deal might go through. So there's no problem with this trade. Maybe the second round pick, maybe that's what makes Chris Drury balk. But you know what? The Rangers
Gotta go for
look
it.
like they're going for it right now.
You gotta go
you
for
got to
it.
go for it. If you're pushing your chips all in, bang. Who cares about the second round pick? Because there's still you still got Brendan Ottman coming up in the wings, and most of your defensemen are still pretty young. So you got to do it now. Let's shift over to the other New York team, the New York Islanders, because we have this one. Jacob Vrana and Tyler Bertuzzi, and to Detroit goes the 2024 first round pick, Samuel Bolduc, Simon Holmstrom, and Josh Bailey. Philk, who says no?
I think the Islanders actually might say no to this. I think the Islanders are giving up a lot in this. You're giving up two of their top three prospects at this point, because you got to say the consensus top three prospects amongst the Islanders are William Dufour, Samuel Bolduc, and Simon Holmstrom at this point. And now that Ratu's gone. Bailey is a nothing burger to me. Vrana, we don't know what's going to happen with Vrana. I mean, he's been out for, his own personal issues. Obviously, we hope he's doing well fighting those, and we hope that he gets better. But Tyler Bertuzzi for a first and a prospect, I think would be fair. I think that might even be a little much just because he's been hurt this year and he hasn't had a great year. So I could see a second and maybe one or two of those prospects and maybe another prospect or Josh Bailey to make it work. I just think the Islanders end up saying no because this is a lot, even though I know that Vrana could end up coming back and it could be a wild card. So I know why they gave up a bit, but I think the Islanders just might not want to give up their entire prospect cupboard to make a deal for a guy who I don't think they're going to be able to resign Tyler Bertuzzi. Vrana, I believe, is under contract long term.
No, one more year.
One more year.
One more year.
Yeah.
So that might complicate things for the Islanders cap situation. But Tyler Bertuzzi is definitely going to be a rental for them. I just think that this deal is a little too big for the Islanders, and I don't think they want to give up two of their top three prospects.
Anthony, who do you think?
So this deal boils down to you got Vrana, who the Red Wings want to get rid of, and Bailey, who the Islanders want to get rid of. Boils down to a first, Bolduc, and Holmstrom for Tyler Bertuzzi, which I think the Islanders, I know adding guys like Vrana and Bertuzzi into their lineup right now, they're two, legitimate top six forwards. I mean, that would help them immensely. But going forward, long term, I don't know if it's the best thing to do, being that Samuel Bolduc looks like he might be a pretty good defenseman. Holmstrom, it looks like he's kind of finding a niche in that third line checker role that, he's been pretty useful. But I think the Islanders say no. I think as much as it would help them this year and possibly with adding those two guys probably propels them past Pittsburgh and Washington. But I don't think going forward it's the best deal. So I'm going to say Islanders say no.
I'm going to look at the one thing that is going to make Lou say hell no. And it's the first round pick, the first overall pick or whatever, first round pick. Lou already traded one. And he's going to do it for a bigger deal with more security. He's going to lose Tyler Bertuzzi. He's got one more year with Vrana. Samuel Bolduc, like you said before, and both you guys said it, he's too valuable to just move with a first-round pick for a guy basically for one more year and an expiring free agent. So, although I do have to say, Tyler Bertuzzi, man, he would kind of fit on the Islanders.
Yeah, he would
very well.
That would be a deal that I would not want to see make because the Islanders, I think, could. Although I think they need more defensive help, that would really, really set them up for a deep run, I think.
Well, here's one going to the Pacific Division to LA, Jacob Chikrin, and to Arizona, a first-round pick of this year, a second-round pick next year, Alex Turcotte and Sean Durzi, I say yes, accept the deal. Everybody says yes. Let's just get this over with. I'm too tired of it. And then after that, trade Vitaly.
I wonder. Mark saying he accepts the deal because he doesn't want to hear about Jacob Chikrin anymore.
Because I don't want to hear about Jacob Chikrin. However, I do have to say LA says no on this one. I don't think they want to part with Sean Durzi, but there's another name you're talking about that they don't want to part with, Felk.
I don't think that they want to part with someone like Brant Clark or Quentin Byfield. I don't think they're going to give up on Byfield yet. I imagine that the talks probably stalled because they wanted one of those two in addition to Clark, and then probably a first-round pick, and that's where this deal probably ended up falling apart. So Turcotte, I'm not going to say that he's looking like a bust, but his development has not gone the way that LA has wanted it to go. And this was a guy that was drafted in 2019. He was a top 10 pick in that draft. And we all thought he was going to be a real good two-way center in the mold of somebody like Jonathan Toews at the NHL level. Someone like that was the type of player that they were going to get. He just hasn't been that yet. And his AHL numbers really haven't shown any type of glance of him being that type of player at the NHL level at any point. So I think if there was a name that wasn't Sean Durzi, I think LA would do it. So I'm gonna say LA probably says no. I think Arizona probably also says no because they're gonna get greedy and they're gonna ask for more because Chychrun's under contract, and that's been their sticking point throughout this whole saga. Is we've got this guy under contract and he's affordable, cap wise and salary wise. We don't have to move this guy, and we're not going to do so until we get the deal that we want. And can I blame them? No, I don't. But I just don't see teams giving up a king's ransom for a player that's had one really good year, and that's why these discussions continue to fall apart time after time.
And also, people need to be reminded, Jacob Chychrun skates on frozen water, not walks on water. So, Anthony, who says no?
I think Arizona at this point realizes they're not going to get Brant Clark, Byfield, Velarde. Turcotte, while could be trending to a bust, I think still could be enough of a prospect that, along with a first and second, would have them find this to be acceptable. I included Sean Durzi in there because it's been rumored that, from what Elliot Friedman said, looks like there's another player that could have stole the deal that's supposed to contract-wise. It needs to go back to Arizona. I think LA is going to have to send Arizona a defenseman. I mean, whether it be Durzi or Sean Walker or somebody, they got to send somebody back there.
So I think that might be even a forward, though. I think from the context that I get from those words is that it's somebody that's got a bigger contract to make things work. And I think Arizona didn't want to take back that contract, and that might be, I could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like.
Looking at the roster, they don't really have many. I mean, Trevor Moore has 6 years at 4 points. Other than that, they don't really have.
What
many
about Victor
guys.
Arvidsson?
Yeah, well, he's got 1 year left after this, so that's.
I mean but that's the thing. It seems like they wanted to make the contract, like the cap work, and that's why I was looking at Arvidsson when I first heard that.
Well, I mean, hopefully, again, this is the end of the Jacob Chychrun saga, because I have never heard of somebody that's been on the block longer than he has. So, but let's move over to a guy that I'm actually surprised he's on the block. I got to say this, guys, because I still can't believe this. Here's one. To Vegas, Thatcher Demko. To Vancouver, a first-round pick, Laurent Brossoit, and Daniil Miramanov. Do I pronounce that right?
Yeah, Miramanov.
Right. Okay. Anthony, who do you think says no on this one?
Well, Vegas desperately needs a goalie. Logan Thompson's out. So they probably say yes because they trade first like candy. Laurent Brossoit is just a goalie going the other way to Vancouver because they would need someone too. And Miramanov is, he's okay, but so I think Vegas says yes easily. Vancouver, from their perspective, they get a late first. I don't know. I think Vancouver says no, but I do think Thatcher Demko going in a deal is possible. I just think they might ask for a little bit more.
Yeah, I think if you switched Daniil Miramanov to Pavel Dorofeyev, I think that deal gets done because I think Vancouver would want Dorofeyev.
I'm gonna go with probably saying Vancouver would say no on this one. I just looked this up though. He's signed at $5 million to 2026, and if Thatcher Demko was still on that trajectory of becoming a starting goalie in this league, NHL Network had him in the top 10 goalies in the league last year, and obviously Robin Leonard with his troubles, Why not? Go get him. Go get him, Vegas. Here's a guy that also Vancouver is looking at. By the way, everybody's looking to be traded out of Vancouver right now. If they're not trying to be traded, Vancouver's looking to trade them. Brock Besser at 25% retained, going to the New Jersey Devils and going over to Vancouver, a second-round pick, and Fabian Zetterlund. Philk, who says no?
You know what? I think this is a deal that could actually work for both teams. I think New Jersey wouldn't go after Besser just because I think that they're so hung up on Meyer, but I think Besser would be a fallback option for them. Yeah, Zetterlund, they're somewhat high on, but I don't see them being high enough to not move him for a scoring upgrade. Yeah. So it's just a matter of how high they're on Besser if they miss on Meyer, to me. So I think this deal could go through, though. I just, the retention might have to drop a little bit from 25%, though, because he's got some years left on his deal, Besser.
Anthony.
Yeah, I think this is a good. I think this deal would go through. I think Vancouver understands, due to Besser's salary and performance too, that they're not going to get a first for him. They're not going to get top prospect. So a second-round pick and, a young roster player who has a little bit of upside, I think they would recognize as a fair deal. They're tearing it down. So, and for New Jersey's, if they miss on Meyer, they still get a guy that does have, capabilities, just underperforming. And they still don't really give up anything that's going to hurt them really going forward. So, I think this would be a good deal.
$6.65 million. All the way to 2025. 25% retained would knock them down to about maybe 5 or just a little bit under 5. I like this deal if you're New Jersey, because then you have a bona fide shooter for their power play. And you know what? A second round pick. Maybe Vancouver tries to get a little greedy, but I think this deal could go through too, guys. That's about it. And
I don't think they can ask for Holtz for Besser at this point.
No.
Yeah, that's one of those guys that New Jersey is high on too. That's why I'm a little bit shocked. He was putting up great numbers for a little bit, and then now they might get away from him. We got a couple deals featuring Mr. Timo Meyer. So we're going to start with the Buffalo Sabres. 2023 first, Peyton Krebs and Jack Quinn for Timo Meyer. Anthony, who says no?
I think this is the type of package that's going to require to take Timo Meyer. But I'm going to say Buffalo says no, only because I don't think anyone expected them to be as competitive as they were this year. I think they're playing with a little bit of house money, so to speak. I think they should be patient, continue doing what they're doing. Maybe in the offseason you try to sign the hometown boy, Patrick Kane, or make moves elsewhere. So I say they say no, be patient, but I do think it's fair value. I think Meyer is going to return something along these lines.
I'm going to jump in right now and agree with you on that 100%. Don't go after Timo Meyer right now. You could try to get him at the draft. Maybe the price comes down a little bit. This is a package that would be what San Jose is asking for right now. But no, I mean, Jack Quinn could always develop into something, and Krebs hasn't been bad for them. So let's see what happens in the offseason. Phil.
Those are going to be two cornerstone players for them. Buffalo is not doing this deal. And you guys are absolutely right. This is the type of deal that's going to take to get him, but it's definitely not happening with Buffalo. Buffalo is going to stay the course. They're going to go and get, a minor addition and see if they can try to make the playoffs. Because if I'm the general manager, if I'm Kevin Adams, what I want to do is I don't want to stand pat and tell these guys that I don't believe in them. Mm-hmm. What I want to do is I want to go make a move that says, hey, I support you guys. I think we're close. I think we're getting there. And I think we're capable of making a move. But I don't want to go give up my farm for a guy like Meyer, who would help, but would also kill depth in the future. And not only that, but you're going to add a guy that's going to command somewhere around 8-9 million, somewhere in that range going forward, probably, if you want to just, push the qualifying offer figure aside. That's going to complicate their cap situation going forward. And Buffalo did a great job with getting Thompson and Cousins and Dahlin under lock That's all great to do what they did, but now you got to worry about, getting guys like Krebs and Quinn and their other defenders and their other, up and coming players like JJ Peterka's looked really good for them as well. So now you got to worry about that. And to me, I don't see Buffalo doing this. It just doesn't make sense for their timeline and their trajectory.
And we got one more Timo Meier one and one more trade with another guy that's going. And we're going to get to some of your recommendations that you're putting in the comments. We'll go with that rapid fire. But how about this one, Phil? To Carolina, Timo Meier. To Vancouver.
What?
Whoa. All right, we're going to fix that one. Actually, in this one, I blame Anthony. Because I copied and pasted on these.
Oh, man.
So, all right. Well, Timo Meier going to the Carolina Hurricanes for a 2023 first.
Anthony Lynn.
A 2023 first, a 2023 second, Seth Jarvis and Jack Drury. Anthony, who says no?
I'm surprised he didn't call him Chris Drury. Oh my God.
Well, I mean,
it is your fault, by the way.
Looks like a. I like Seth Jarvis. Don't really like Jack Drury. I don't really think he's going to be of anything of real substance here. So first, second, Seth Jarvis is a good young roster player. I think San Jose. I think San Jose might say no here, to be honest, but it's close.
Philk?
I think Carolina says no. I don't think they want to give up Seth Jarvis. I think they like what he's done. I think he fits in with the team. He's the type of player they want. I get Meier is the sexier player right now because he's big, he's strong, he's developed, he's a scorer. But I also think you kind of, when you start moving out young guys like Jarvis for a guy like Meier, who's already like well within his prime years, you start changing your timeline around. And I don't think Carolina really wants to do that. I think they have a better prospect pool than people give them credit for. And although some of their picks may have not gotten to the point where you think they would have been at, especially after they killed that 2019 draft the way that they did, I just don't see them giving up on Jarvis. I think this makes no sense. And to give up that much more on top of Jarvis to get Meier, I think that's probably more than likely a big no from Carolina at this point. So I'm going to say no from Carolina's end.
This is my answer. The Hurricanes say no because they don't want to give up Seth Jarvis. The Sharks say no because they don't want a first-round pick that's going to be number 30. But the Vancouver Canucks clearly say yes because they're getting all this stuff and they had nothing to do with it. They're like, wait a minute, we're getting the first, a second, Seth Jarvis.
Well, how high is Vancouver on Justin Huberdeau? How high are they on Anthony Lynn, Marc?
They're very high on Anthony Lynn because even Anthony Lynn had more of a career than Jeremy Lin. So anyway, so going over to this one, the last one we got for us guys, we're going to get to yours in a second. To Boston, Vladislav Gavrikov, and to Carolina, a first-round pick and John Beecher. Phil, who says no?
To Carolina, to Columbus, Marc.
Oh, I said, oh. Well, at least I had the right thing on the screen. Man, if you're listening to the audio podcast, you guys are missing out. We are really having a good time with this one.
This is an all-time, like, this should be our blooper reel right here. It's incredible. Oh my God. I'm gonna say probably I think Columbus says no, just because yes, they like the first, but John Beecher's his development has just not been there. He was a high pick in 2019. I thought he was going to be a good player, something along the lines of maybe like a Chris Kreider type, where he was going to be a big physical, speedster that had some skill. but he hasn't panned out the way that you would thought. And to me, I don't know how much value he has. So I like the idea of a first, because I think it's going to probably end up taking a first for Gavrikov, because he's probably, if it's not for Chychrun, he's the best defenseman on the market at this point.
Yes.
And I think he's the most realistically obtainable. So I think there is going to be a major bidding war for his services. So I do think it's going to start with a first, and then I think it's going to be another prospect from there. But I think it's going to have to be something better than Beecher at this point, who maybe it's just me, but I'm not high on him anymore. He hasn't developed the way that he should have at this point. I thought he would be an NHLer by now, and it's looking more like he's trending the other way.
I'll step in on this one real quick. Yeah, absolutely. Columbus says no. That's it on that. Anthony.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know they're going to get a first for Gavrikov, but they're also realistic, and they're not going to get like Gavrikov for like a first in Lysell, like a top prospect like that. I think
no, Lysell's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so
not in that deal.
Beecher still is a former first round pick. Gavrikov's a UFA to be. I think they take the assets and they go with it. I mean, sure, could they get a better?
You may be right.
Could they get a better prospect with Beecher elsewhere? Possibly, but I think this is a deal that they would take for Gavrikov.
All right, let's go check out some of yours. Phil, you got all these starred, right?
I saw you starring some, so I went and I starred more. All right, so we'll start with NYR for life. 2 New York Rangers, Noel Chari, the St. Louis 3rd-round pick. I think both teams probably say yes to this.
I agree with you. I'm going to say they say yes, and that's a guy that definitely they would target. He's done real good work on the 4th line. Going to you, Anthony.
Yeah, deal. I think that's fair.
I think it's a pretty solid deal. Yeah. So good job by NYR for life there, buddy. Good trade. Jay Lewis has 2 of them. I'll start with his first. Alex Turcotte to the Rangers for Vitaly Kravtsov, and a change of scenery for prospects. And I could actually see a deal like this happening. I see one of 3 things happening with Vitaly Kravtsov. One, it's a deal like this, where it's another change of scenery type player, where, this is a classic scenario. It's happened so many times before. Very plausible. 2, Vitaly Kravtsov gets dealt with like a 2nd-round pick, or, he's packaged for something at the deadline here. Or 3, he's just moved in the offseason for a 3rd-round pick, maybe a 2nd if the Rangers are lucky. So I say this could absolutely be a deal.
Well, you were talking about John Beecher before. I agree with you on that. It would be change of scenery type of players. This would definitely fit that mold. And I would say that this deal could go through. If anybody balks, it's LA. Anthony.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Mark. I think its deal could absolutely happen. It's also perception. I mean, we perceive Kravtsov in a certain way as maybe heading towards possibly a bust. I mean, you could say the same thing for Turcotte. I don't know how
Turcotte, who hasn't even succeeded in the AHL.
Exactly. So I guess it comes down to if Rob Blake thinks Kravtsov is further along, which you could make a case for. He's playing the NHL. I mean, Turcotte has 2, but a very small sample size. Honestly, I think this could be a deal. I do. I mean, I still think Turcotte may still have a little bit of a higher ceiling, but that's just my opinion. But
they're both players that are on organizations that they're blocked.
They need to get the hell away from.
Yeah. That's just one thing. Next one.
Yeah. So I'll get rid of that one. But good proposal there by Jay Lewis. Jay Lewis comes again. Tanner Jeannot for the Rangers for Zach Jones. And I'm going to say that Nashville probably says no to this, because I think it's going to take more than Zach Jones to get Tanner Jeannot. I think Vitaly Kravtsov for Tanner Jeannot, as Larry Brooks started pushing around, is actually the basis of a pretty good deal if both sides wanted to make one. I think that's another scenario that the Rangers are looking for. They're going to look for a player like that has some term, that's under team control. Maybe a young forward that there's still more to give. I think Jeannot's rookie year is kind of I don't want to say it's a fluke, but when you shoot at like nearly 20%, it's not sustainable in your rookie year. So I do think that he could be like maybe a 15 to 20 goal scorer going forward in your bottom 6. and that's like perfect because he's physical, he fights, he plays playoff type hockey. He's what Gerard Gallant wants, and I can't blame him in that aspect. I can't, but I think Vitaly Kravtsov or Tanner Jeannot can make sense because if the Nashville Predators are looking to add offense and add a skilled player that has a ceiling to still kind of get to, then maybe that does make sense for them.
Anthony.
Yeah, Nashville says no for Zach Jones. I mean, maybe for Kravtsov, but Zach Jones, no. I mean, Jeannot's pretty good NHLer. Zach Jones hasn't really proved much at the NHL level. Nashville says no to this.
I would have to say that the way this is currently situated, absolutely, Nashville says no. Let's say you throw a second-round pick in there, maybe a third-round pick, maybe. But also, Tanner Jeannot is an RFA, so all the hammer is with them. You were talking about a shooting percentage. How many of the goals that he had last year were deflections or rebounds? Like those, sometimes those chances don't come along, and then you have to actually shoot the puck, and that'll lower your shooting percentage by that nature. And do we have any other ones?
Yeah, we do. I'll get rid of that one. The next one is from John D. Lee, one of our OGs. He says Jordan Greenway for Vitaly Kravtsov. I don't think that's enough. I think you might have to add to Kravtsov to make that happen, but I don't think it would be a ton because Jordan Greenway has kind of fallen out of favor in Minnesota. I do like the idea of adding him, though, for the Rangers. I think that he would be a real good bottom six forward. And you can kind of plug him on your second line, too, if you wanted to. I don't think that's ideal, but he would be one of those guys that could be like a big forward that would make space for Panarin and Trocheck if that's the line or whatever the case may be. So Jordan Greenway would be a player that I think the Rangers would like. I just think it's going to be a little more than Vitaly Kravtsov to make that work.
Anthony.
Yeah, Minnesota says no. He has fallen off a little bit this year, but 2 years ago he had 32 points. Last year he had 10 goals, so he's a useful bottom six player. Got a lot of size, so the Rangers would have to offer up more to get Greenway. So Minnesota says no.
Is it unfair to use the term Ryan Reeves with talent? Just asking, guys. That was the first comparison that came to mind because 10 goals, 17 assists last year. You're right about that, and 6 goals, 26 assists. He could be a real good fourth liner for the Rangers. But to answer the question, boys,
he does play a big, heavy game like Reeves. He's
more of a grinded out game.
Fight. Yeah, he will fight too if necessary.
69 penalty minutes last year.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say Reeves is a great comparable, but he's definitely a big power forward who has some skill. I think there's a level that could still be unlocked with him. I think you just might need a change of scenery and some different line mates to make things work. So,
yeah, you look at his I guess that would be his rookie season. 81 games, 12 goals, 12 assists, 24 points. Big things were expected of him coming out with the World Junior team, but no.
Yeah.
Do we have any other ones?
Yes, we have a few more.
Okay. Keep
Christy comes through and says, what about Tyler Bertuzzi to Tampa at 50% retained for 2 seconds and a prospect? Well, Chris, I'm going to grade this one as an incomplete because you're not giving us who the prospect is. I get it. Tampa Bay's prospect cupboard is very, very bare, especially after the Brandon Hagel trade. So they don't have a lot to work with, but you got to give me a name here, something else to work with. I get you're just trying to give us the framework, but I got to grade this as an incomplete at this point. So
you'd have to say an actual NHL prospect.
Yeah. Sorry, bud.
However, by the way, 2 seconds, that would be their 2024 and 2025, even though their championship.
I don't think they have a second this year, right?
They don't have a second this year. It would be the next 2 after that. So they don't draft. They don't draft higher than the 3rd round until 2025, and that would be in the 1st round. They would have a pick. I say Tampa has to say no on that. They got some great depth this year, so I think Tampa says no. But Anthony,
Yeah, I don't think so. Also, too, when you got to remember when you retain salary on a player, that usually increases what you have to give up a little bit more. So I think Detroit could get more than that for Bertuzzi retained.
Okay. Oh, I got another one here. I got two more actually. David Wood comes in and says Bertuzzi at 50% retained for Kravtsov, Jones, and a 2023 second-round pick. I think this is close. I'm not sure if Detroit says yes, but it's close. I am very 50-50 on this one because I could see Detroit saying yes. I could also see them saying no. It's very close. I don't know if the Bertuzzi necessarily gets a first-round pick with the way that he's been this season, the fact that he's been injured. But this is very, very close.
I'm going to go with it goes through. I think it goes through. That would give them two second-round picks this year.
Lose my power on my laptop, boys, so I'm just letting you know.
No problem. So we'll wrap this up and get to Q&A now. But yeah, so I think this goes through. That would give Detroit, because they have St. Louis's pick. That's what I was looking at. But that gives them 3 second-round picks this year, and you can move around in the draft then. You know what? I got to go with this. So, yeah. Anthony.
I'm not sure. I mean, Kravtsov could still be viewed as maligned and, trending down. Hasn't really proved anything. Zach Jones hasn't proved anything at the NHL level. So, and also with Bertuzzi 50% retained. I mean, this is a guy that's scored 60 points before in his career, Mark. I think you have to give up a little bit more for Tyler Bertuzzi, especially at 50% retained for, two guys who, haven't really done much at the NHL level.
All right. Yeah, we got to ask for more of these trades on a different time. We're going to actually just wrap up this side of this. Let's get to some Q&A. Let's also get some notes out there. See, I just lost all my co-hosts all of a sudden. So, because I was going to ask Anthony if he has any NHL news or notes. I guess I'll take a couple more of these real quick. But Nick Bustad to the Rangers and to Arizona, 2/3, a 4th-round pick, and Hayek. The Rangers say no. That's too much for Nick Bustad. I mean, Nick Bustad is not what he was with Florida. Isaac Howard or Cal Foote were the prospects he was looking at. You know what? Maybe like an Isaac Howard. Benito to the Rangers, 25% retained for a 4th and 7th. I think that isn't a bad one, so that's all right with that.
Yeah, I had to kind of reposition because of the laptop, but I'm going to have to wrap this up soon. So,
oh, no problem. I mean, you're got a lot to do with family, so it's there's a lot that has to go with that. I know Anthony, you're still there in audio, right? All right, I thought I heard him a second ago.
Kravtsov for Zuccarello straight up. Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I think Minnesota might say no on that one.
Yeah, maybe just Steven Lorentz to the Rangers for a 3rd in 2023. I like the player. I don't know if he's worth a 3rd-round pick though. I'm going to go give up a 3rd. I think I'd rather give it up for Tyler Mott than Steven Lorentz. That's just me.
By the way, Phil, do you have any other news around the league that broke around recently?
Not really. It's really just the Chychrun talk at this point. It's really just it's Gavrikov and Chychrun that we're waiting on at this point. Yeah, Christy. Connor McDavid on waivers. Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Which, by the way, we were talking about the different trade deadlines. the waiver deadline in baseball, all players go through waivers. That's just people don't forget about that, because it's a matter of if they put them through waivers and they revoke them. That's the thing. Because I mean, there's lots of times they'll put their guys through waivers and then be like, and they're just doing it for due diligence purposes. They're not doing it for anything else. Like, the Mets will put through Pete Alonso. Somebody goes, "I'll take Pete Alonso." No, we're going to take him back. There you go. Because that does happen a good amount with a lot of these things. Going back to this. I mean, by the way, Saturday afternoon, Islanders had that loss in overtime. And one thing I was arguing, Phil, is depending where the puck is, the puck itself couldn't cross the line unless it was possession. Now, talking with fans that day, all of them said that's not possession, kicking it to your stick. You told me
it is.
It is.
It absolutely is possession, and as long as if he had all right, so if the puck got away from him, then that wouldn't have been possession and wouldn't have been onside. But you're allowed. That's a continuation play, and that's allowed. I've literally seen this rule before called a rule. So it is what it is.
All right. Let's get some more comments that are down here. Yeah, Arizona needs to lower their asking price. They're not going to do that.
That's what it basically comes down to. Is Arizona's there's just too much for Chychrun. Way too much. I wouldn't want to.
Chris, I'm going to disagree with you. I think the Wild already have Zook in the budget. He worked great with Kirill Kaprizov. They're not moving him. It's not going to happen.
You know what? He's only got, I think, like another year on his deal after this one. If I remember correctly, I don't think he has much time left on his deal, and he's up there in age. So he's 35 right now. Yeah, he's a free agent after next season, and he's got a 10-team no trade for this year and next year. And he's got a no movement clause, so like you can't move him to the minors or anything like that. But I mean, he is movable. I get the chemistry is there with Kaprizov, and those two probably have some. They're probably good friends. But if I'm Minnesota, I would really think about moving him and seeing what you could get, because it's the point where they're going to have a lot of trouble with those two dead cap hits. Wow.
Yeah, and it's real, and it goes up next year. I think it goes up to.
It's 6.37 $6,371,794, and it goes up to $1 million to 7,371,794 for the next two seasons. So it's a total between the two of them of $14,743,588 of cap space eaten up by two players that aren't even on your roster. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Oof, that's really bad. And you have Ryan Reeves, Freddie Gaudreau coming off the books after this year. Freddie Gaudreau, you're going to want to re-sign that guy.
Yeah.
Unless you don't. I mean, he had 14 goals and 44 points last year. He's not going to have this type of year, this year. He's only got 11 goals and 22 points, but he's 3 goals off of his career high in 23 less games played as opposed to last year. So he's still having a decent year. He's going to command somewhere around $3 million, maybe more. Matt Dumba comes off the books. That's $6 million to kind of absorb the blow. But just how are you going to handle all this?
Hey, Phil,
what's that?
By the way, Anthony threw this one out there. Minnesota and Washington working on a deal, and he playfully says Peter Bondra for Marian Gaborik in their primes, straight up for each other. Who says no?
I think Washington says no to that. Peter Bondra was a 50-goal scorer twice in his prime, and he did it in the trap, clutch, and grab era. Gaborik was a 3-time 40-goal scorer, but he did it post cap with no two line pass rule. So I just think Peter Bondra is the better player. Peter Bondra is a 500 career goal scorer, and Peter Bondra is just one of the more underrated players of all time.
Yeah. And if you grew up in the 90s, you knew his name, and he was just a terror with the Washington Capitals.
He was a Ranger killer, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Killed the Rangers.
D. Ely said, as a Canes fan, I would not hate it if they picked up Simmons off waivers. By the way, it was nice to see you.
But can Wayne Simmons play that type of game at this point with all the speed that Carolina plays with?
Yeah,
I just don't know about that.
He's too slow for them. I do have to mention and give you a shout out because there was a shout out for other trade talk videos on different channels, and they picked you. Of course, they go to the smart ones, so that's one reason why I gotta give you a shout out on that. I actually had the clip of it. I think it was I forgot what channel it was.
Someone picked us?
Oh no, somebody picked him.
Picked who?
Him for one of his comments. Ely's. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. I think it was it wasn't Hot Take Hockey, it was somebody else. I saw it. I'm like, damn it, I gotta send him an email on this.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So AZ is saying, would the Rangers move in the offseason for cap reasons to resign players? Goudreau's $3.6 million.
Could see it.
I could see it, but Phil, that's a tough ask. That's another. That's 4 more years at 3.6. They're going to have to retain some.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe somewhere to get them around like 2.75. I think Goudreau's worth like 2.5 at most.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you could probably retain like $1 million. Barclay Goudreau's a hell of a player, but even if he was traded off the Rangers, Phil, Gerard Gallant would still play him 18 minutes a game on the Rangers. So
probably.
So there you go, right there. All right. We're gonna. I know you're gonna be going off in a minute. We're gonna go for another 10 more minutes. We'll go to 3:30, everybody. So. Kravtsov to the Habs for Wi-Fi and a third. Yeah, I see the.
I don't think Montreal moved him. I say Montreal says no. I don't think they move him. But I'm going to sign off though. Everybody, you all have a great day. It was awesome to do this, guys, with the backdrop and the weather outside. This is cool. Well, probably the coolest one I've done so far, and I've done this on the road 2 other times in North Carolina, so it was both very fun. But, so
it is fun to do a show on the road. So.
Yeah, it is. It feels nice to be away from New York, be in this nice weather, and be outside. So
I'm definitely gonna have to do one in Arizona when at least one in May. So I know that, and I know there's gonna be other trips that are gonna be booked. Phil, enjoy Florida the rest of the weekend.
Will do, guys. Everybody, take care. Let's go Rangers. I'll try to keep everybody updated on the Big Apple Hockey page on Facebook if I can do a final buzzer. It just depends on where I am tonight after the game. So maybe I could do one, maybe even tomorrow if I have some time and just do a quick one. Who knows? But I'll keep you all updated.
D saying, come to the stadium game.
I wish.
And believe me, I wish, and I was really hoping to try to get there.
Kill me if I ended up going to Carolina by myself. So that's not going to happen.
All right, Phil, take it easy. Have a great time.
Let's go Rangers. All
right. Goudreau to the Yotes would make sense. I'm gonna pull out Anthony's thing right here, even though he'll hopefully join us before the end. Macagliano was saying Kravtsov for Höglander could happen. All right. We'll have to look into that one. But going back to what Chris also said, Goudreau of the Yotes would make sense. They have the cap room for a long time. He can help the young players with the remainder of his contract. Yeah, but I think also when it comes to like a guy like Marc Goudreau, he's one of those guys, those depth pieces that really help you work harder towards the Stanley Cup. So that would be one thing. I got to go with what Sean's saying right here. This deadline has a Yandle feel to it. They know they are close, and it's time to spend draft capital. I agree with that, And also part of the other things that are coming, sort of like with you're saying the Yandel trade, because they traded Anthony Duclair in that trade, and a lot of fans killed it, but also knowing Buchnevich was coming. This one, I would say you have draft capital to trade. I don't think they're trading any of their hot forwards or their young hotshot forwards. Their first or second overall picks or Filipino. I do have to say though, if they trade guys, Brennan Ottman's going nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. They're high on that kid, and it looked like he was going to make it out of the season. Who knows? If the Rangers decide they don't want to pick up anybody, they might want to bring him up after the OHL season ends. So we'll see about that. That would be a bad move in my opinion, only because they have the slide contract. You're going to have to get yourself out of cap hell, slide the contract 1 year. All right. Chicago and Arizona already said they would easily take on salary for good assets. And by the way, how you doing, Romanel? Yeah, by the way, that's the other thing. Goudreau does have a modified no trade clause. He's listing 15 teams every single year that he cannot go to. Presumably, I would say probably all the Canadian teams, because that's what most of these guys do, which is weird because I would gladly sometimes just go play in a hotbed hockey market. 322 right now. We have 38 of you watching, guys. If you haven't already done it, make sure you're hitting that like button for us, and that or smashing that like. Or I love doing this graphic of the hand of God. Oh, appease the YouTube gods. All right, let's get back to some of your comments right here. Minnesota loves their goons, so I'm going to say they were targeting Dale Hunter. I love when they have those on there. Brian Bellows and Basil McRae for Calle Johansson in a second. Wow, we're just throwing all the names out there. By the way, if you haven't seen it, Basil McRae had the comment of, I played in the NHL for 18 years. I was in the Mighty Ducks for 30 seconds, and everybody remembers me from that. I mean, it certainly wasn't for Mike Modano's acting. So, great hockey player, not much of one. Iceman, I do think everybody is going Max Domi gets traded now at every single trade deadline, I think. So, because he's going on this one. He went on the last one. Kind of interesting what happens with Max Domi in the rest of his career. But I think it would be too much of an ask. But you know what? Maybe. It's hard to gauge what Max Domi brings. I don't even know anymore. So just me saying, play in Canada and you'll have nightmare taxes. Yep. What do I think the likelihood of Kane coming to the Rangers still is? Sean is asking, and I gotta say this. Nope. I don't think it's happening. I don't think they got the deadline cap space right now. I'm on the Rangers cap friendly, and they have $1.6 million in deadline cap space. Absolutely not. They'd be better off trying to get that fourth line center, shoring up that fourth line. And as you guys mentioned before, there's and I even mentioned it before, AZ saying Sean Lafferty would be a perfect fourth line center for the New York Rangers. I agree. That extra year on his deal could be a sticking point to get that up there. Music is in the comments, but I'm going to get to you in 1 second. Jay is saying hike to the Senators for Austin Watson. I'm going to have to do further research on that, because Austin Watson sounds like a NASCAR driver right now in my head. I don't have the most thorough knowledge of prospects. That's why I got Phil and Anthony for that. Music is saying that the Rangers do play the Devils in the first round. Do you predict the Devils goaltending holding up? Here's the thing. No, I don't. Music's, I think that you hit the nail on the head with this one, and I talk about this all the time. Career high, I believe, for Vitek Vanacek in a season is 42, maybe 43 games. And I have something that I could say, and yeah, we got this news that's breaking that we've known this for a while. We've kept it under our hats, but Patrick Kane is interested in the New York Islanders, and he's not going to go there to be a rental, I've been told. But I do have this question whenever I ask about goaltenders' conditioning and endurance. I always called it the Yaroslav Halak rule, but now maybe lower that number because a lot more teams are using tandems. But okay, yeah, and he could still go to Dallas for this year and end up signing anywhere he wants in the offseason, including by the way, Jay, thank you. Watson, tough physical center. I'll take a look at those. I'll take a look at his numbers in a second, especially before 3:30 hits. So when it comes to goaltenders that aren't accustomed to playing every single game, the Stanley Cup playoffs ends up showing that they can get gassed pretty easily. Which actually I thought Igor was gassed at the beginning of last year. He got his second win pretty good. So can Vitek Vanacek do it? I don't know about that. I just don't know about that. Here's an interesting name. Let me throw that out there. Yeah, Kane said it basically was that was one of the places that he was looking at. It's still hard for anybody to just fathom this is where I'm going to move on with my career. Chris Frost is saying, how about Pius Suter, the Rangers, for Kravtsov and Gauthier? Let me look up what Pius Suter is making with Detroit, because I can't believe Detroit snapped on him. But 3.25, he is a UFA. That could be an option. How about this one? Oscar Sundqvist. Oscar Sundqvist would fit more of the mold, and 2.75. He's a UFA at the end, pure rental. That's not a bad decision to go for Oscar Sundqvist. He already helped, I believe, the St. Louis Blues win the Cup in 2019, and yes, he was on that team. So that was one of those guys that in daily fantasy I would always take him, and he would always produce. So yeah, I would actually think Oscar Sundqvist would be a better addition. Let's see what we got here. Watson on the faceoffs. Let's see. Ottawa got Watson, and he's $1.5 million. He's a UFA at the end of the year. And let's get some of those stats on Austin Watson and quickly. Austin Watson. His faceoff percentage is only about 40%. He tends to fit more in the mold of a winger. 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, minus 11. Yeah, that 56 penalty minutes of that 91. So if the Rangers wanted to go for toughness, they can go there. Leave Goudreau at center, but no, it's not a bad decision. And obviously Tyler Mott is there. Here's a question: does Ottawa, now the guys poo-pooed it before, but does Ottawa stick with their roster even though they're at 55 points? They're within shouting distance of the New York Islanders right now and the Washington Capitals. Ottawa has 53 games played, Detroit and Buffalo 52. Ottawa's got 55 points, Detroit, Buffalo 56. 61 is Washington currently in the playoffs. So both of those teams have at least 3 games, all 3 of them, if not 4 of them, which is Buffalo and Detroit, have 4 games in hand. But you got to win those games. And the thing is, they're gonna have some games against each other. So that's what's going to make that a little bit more interesting. All right, let's go on. But yes, Patrick Kane did have some doubt. Patrick Kane did have some interest in the New York Islanders. He's a big fan of Matthew Barzal. Although right now, Matthew Barzal better get working on that game to justify that contract. NYR for Life is saying, do the Rangers re-sign Nico Mikkola at the end of the season? Capo seems very excited to have a fellow Finnish player on the team. Let's see what we got Mikkola making right now. I think he's only making just under $1 million, maybe a little bit less. And yes, it does help when you have somebody to associate with. Mikkola is making 1.9. Can they do it? It's going to be a tight squeeze. It's going to be a Tyler Mott situation, sort of like last year, where they might need to they might need to part ways with him at the end if they can't get the number that they want. So that would but also, Mikko has been a Ranger for 2 games. Let's see how he plays. Yes, and that is true. He does have interest in the New York Islanders. Pius Suter would, Chris Frost is saying Pius Suter would have better depth scoring than Sundqvist. Plus, playing with Goody and VZ would be nasty. I think VZ is on that line with Trocheck and Kreider the rest of the season. I think they're going to use that as a shutdown line. And they've been doing pretty well. So, Dealey is saying Otto has been trying to get Ranta from the Hurricanes. Why? I mean, I know why. As a backup goaltender, and he's an upgrade. I mean, they already got Cam Talbot, so they might as well get Cam Talbot as a successor as well in Antti Ranta. But how many more ex-Ranger, often injured goaltenders can you possibly get? And unfortunately, I think the one reason why they're doing it, and the answer to why is unfortunately that incident with Anton Forsberg happened, and I think it's both knees he ruptured. That's just nasty. If Kane was a left wing, it would make sense. But right now, we have too many wingers. I think that's for the Islanders. That's Data Survival saying. 1.9 million, no way he resigns. David saying, you have Ben Harper and the team likes Robinson. Yes, they do. So I would have to say, again, it's a Tyler Mott situation. Does it actually work like that he wants to stay? Can they get the right price? Brett is saying Harper better than Mikkola anyway. And you know what? Harper is definitely a good depth piece. I think he's going to be better than Justin Braun was last year. How about that, everybody? Justin, or actually got it right. And I think that's definitely the better comment or the better defenseman to go with. Talbot's injured, yes, because he always it's. But by the way, Steven, thank you very much. Welcome to the show. There's too many of these guys. Just goalies going down. Ranta's always injured. UFA at the end of the year. But you know what? If anything, the Canes proved you need Antti Ranta for that team. People want to rip on the Rangers for beating backup goalies last year. Again, first off, Pittsburgh had that series won. They let the Rangers off the hook. And it wasn't just because, and don't blame Louis Domingue, because Tristan Jarry was in Game 7. They had a 2-goal lead in Game 5 and Game 6, and then in Game 7 they had a lead in the third period. Then they get Antti Ranta, who did not look like a backup at all until he let in 1 bad goal in Game 6, and then the Rangers just smoked him in Game 7. So Patrick saying, bro, Kane could show us the way to the promised land. His numbers are still solid as hell. Let's go Islanders. The only thing I would be concerned about with Patrick Kane being on the New York Islanders is you have 2 pass-happy guys on the power play. You need some guys that are just going to shoot the puck. Chris Frost is saying, what about Varley to the Knights for Hill and Martinez? I think that deal, if the Islanders drop out of the playoff race, is likely, but unfortunately, they're still in it because also, by the way, Scott Mayfield is going to have value at the deadline if the Islanders drop out of it, but I don't think they're going to. Brian DeHubby is saying, trade Halak. He's been playing great and his value is high. We're going to ride Chesty to the playoff as always. You're correct on that. There's only one bit of bad news. And it's funny to say it. Yaroslav Halak has got a no-move clause. And I believe it's a full no-move clause. Yep. Full no-move clause for Yaroslav Halak. Yeah, I agree with that. Stupid Rangers. Stupid fingers. Anyway, Rasmus Kapari for Kratzov. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening. State of Survival saying, yeah, Barzell is a right wing now. Someone is going to have to play the left wing. I'm thinking Nelson, Horvat, Kane, and Barzell on the second line. Well, spread out your assets. That's what you should do. And I don't know about moving Nelson to the left wing, though. If you do that, then Barzell moves to the center of the second line. But Kane said he's wanted to play with Barzell. So that's something that's in there. All right, everybody, we're at 3:36 right now. I'm going to start the music to say bye-bye because, after all, that is the song. I am working on getting a situation where you guys can actually download this song because I love this song. It's a great one. Nelson riding an 11-game point scoring streak. That is right. Kratzov, Jones, Gauthier, and a second to Nashville for Tomasino and Chanel. I still think it's Nashville that balks at that. So Romanella saying all the Kane talk is leaving a major team out of this discussion. Major item. I'm sorry. All this Kane talk is leaving a major item out of discussion. He isn't healthy. His hip is shot. What would you trade for an aging superstar at this point? That's a good point. And also, I just don't know if Kane's got that thirst to go anywhere else because his entire career was in Detroit, maybe Buffalo at some point, but I don't think it's there. But yeah, Brock Nelson's been almost the reign. I almost want to say far and away the best player on the Islanders this season. He's been doing well. So let's start the music. Let's get a couple more comments in right here. Like I said, we have a lot more that we're going to be planning for the trade deadline. I got a Matt Barzell bobblehead already ready to go. I just hope there's more for us to cover at the trade deadline than just all the trades that already happened. There's going to be a lot of them. You have to wait till the last minute. Patrick saying it's a good point. We get 8 weeks out of a guy. Yeah, but you want to get more than 6 to 8 weeks if you're not basically guaranteed a playoff spot. Like the Rangers are in. If the Islanders go, let's see, this is the reason why you have to hesitate. If the Islanders had 57 games left, they go it's 23 games. Nope, sorry. 25 games left. Let's see. 25 games. 17 points would get you 17 wins would get you 95 points. 17. Oh, nope. 17 is 34. Oh, that's right. 95 points. Is that enough to get the Islanders in the playoffs? Because the Capitals, who have 56 games, can go with those 17 points, get the 96 points, and they still have an extra loss that they can have on there. So, I mean, it's a rough go. But the thing is, we were talking about this earlier. Teams are not letting the Islanders off the hook. Like, if this was last year, the Islanders already would be toast, but they're not because the Capitals and the Penguins are still there. Sign Kane in the offseason. State of Survival says it's just to make us. It would just be so much better for us. Yes. Jay is asking, how many trades do you think Drury will make at the deadline? Will Kratzov go at the deadline or at the NHL draft? He's going at the deadline. I don't think they're going to even entertain having him a few more months. So Chris Frost is saying, well, if Kane is like Bon Jovi, who says you can't go home. Great song. By the way, the first song by a rock band to go #1 on a country charts. Patrick is still saying, but ahead of the Islanders is Pittsburgh and Washington, and they both bums. I spiced that up. He just said they both bums. But yeah, you know what? But the thing is, Pittsburgh's going to improve, and I still say Sidney Crosby is probably the toughest athlete in sports to knock off his game. That guy raises his game so many different times. But I think the 7 points between them and the Rangers, they're not catching the Rangers. Now, Pittsburgh's got bad goaltending, and they're only 5-2-3 in their last 10. They're getting Jari back, but is Jari really the needle mover as a goaltender? Let's be honest about that. So, we got that one right there. Let's see. Romanell saying if the Rangers come out east, it's coming out of the east, it's likely they play New Jersey, Boston, and Carolina. That's one hell of a road. I agree with that 100%. 100% on that one, because it's now what the order of those teams are going to be is what's going to come into question. Because if the Rangers get hot, the division isn't out of the question, but we'll see what else they want to do. Jari is the Islanders' favorite goaltender. I agree with that one 100%. And he had money on the Islanders in that series because that pass he made to Josh Bailey was still ridiculous. Jury should keep Kravtsov now that they can bank cap before the deadline. The Jury should trade Kravtsov now that they can bank cap for the deadline. Dave, I agree with you on that one. And also, he'll get a return, a small return. My goalie, Chris Vince, my man. Which, by the way, Chris, just to point out, Mark Williams face-off extraordinaire. Yes. Chicago wants too much, and they have to realize to move Kane. The teams still want him. We'll be close to a deal like Chychrun because Arizona will wait it out. Yeah, but the difference is Chychrun is signed for 2 more years at, I believe, $4.5 million. That's what's going to really help the Arizona trade. And yeah, legend in your own in my own mind. The Eastern Conference is going to be an absolute bloodbath this year, and I'm going to get the Chris Frost comment on that. Kravtsov for future considerations could also help free up a deal, and then you end up picking up something with what you get left for them. So anyway, Chris Frost is saying that it's been one hell of a road all year in the Eastern Conference. You're right about that. My question is, did Boston peak too early? Is that even possible? Can you peak when you're going to probably shatter the NHL record? So I think I would have to say, the Rangers go Devils, then Carolina, and then look out, they might get Tampa again. And again, I like the way what the Rangers are building right now with us. 36 of you guys are watching me just ramble on right now. Thank you very much. You've all been fantastic. And Patrick had a good laugh on that one. Romanell is asking, Keandre Miller over under $5.5 million for 4 years. Well, I think you're going to see a bridge deal. If the Rangers can somehow bridge him under 5 for about 2 or 3 years, that is a huge win. He's not getting $8 million, not right now. And arbitration might be involved, but they might, all these arbitration cases, nobody wants to go to arbitration. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting on what Miller gets. But if Miller can somehow come in, that's a good number, Romanell. But if Miller can somehow get closer to 5 or maybe even 4.5 and only do it for 3 years and then keep an RFA year in there and then you can pay him on the next one, that would really help. Patrick is saying just how scary Tampa is at this point in the postseason. Hardest goalie to eliminate in the NHL is Andrei Vasilevsky. Yeah, Miller would get the Noah Dobson contract. I agree with that one, Anthony. See, Anthony's always still here with me in spirit. So the Dobson contract is, I want to look that up for you guys right now. Because Noah Dobson, hell of a year last year, was doing well for the Islanders. Noah Dobson, 3 years at $4 million. That's what we got for Noah Dobson. And he's still an RFA after that, arbitration eligible. Going back to Keandre Miller, he is not actually, wow, that's a good hammer that the Rangers have. He is not arbitration eligible. That is a big thing. I did not look it up until just now. The Rangers can undercut him if they want. Not that they want to. They want to pay him something, but it's just they're gonna. Don't be surprised if he actually makes under 4. I mean, not having on a second contract, not having the arbitration hammer is a big thing. So don't be surprised about that. Would you sell high on Hedl at the draft to get another first-round draft pick to re-sign Tarasenko? At the moment, no. I'm keeping Philip Hedl. That was an article on BigAppleHockeyPodcast.com that I wrote. Time to drink the Hedl juice. He's starting to really come around, except his face-off numbers are still abysmal. Tomas, how you doing? Possibly late question, but what would Barbashev cost? Phil had this one in the Who Said No. Let me get that one for you. And I think it's a sensible trade. I think it's an NHL level prospect, the guy that could play in the league right now, 2023 second round pick, 2024 fourth round pick, and Ivan Barbashev at 50% retained. I think that's good. By the way, everybody, if you remember the Pure Hockey, just go to Pure Hockey. When I was in there yesterday, I felt like I was Randall in Clerks when he went to the Big Time Video and just praising it. It was great. Awesome day. So, but everybody, it is time to end the show today. And it's always fantastic doing these shows. Right now, 34 of you that are still watching. We're going to sign it off for today. If we get some major breaking news, we will definitely come back on. If it's not just me, it'll be Anthony. If it's not just all of us, we're always going to be around, because whenever trades are made or games are played, we're here. Come right back up. And thank you, Jay. Oh, I have not seen Clerks 3. I have not seen it. I heard all the jokes misfired, but I mean, I owe it to the Clerks because I love the second movie especially. Patrick, thank you very much, because again, it's great to do this. I haven't been able to do much work on Instagram the last couple days, so also there's lots of stuff to go with there. So tonight, I'm expecting the Rangers are going to take care of business against the Vancouver Canucks. They're probably heavy favorites. Don't sleep on them, because that's where the Rangers almost lost to Vancouver a week ago. So don't do that. Go beat the team while they're down, and especially while Thatcher Demko is not in the nets for them. And Jay, thank you. And oh yeah, hey, by the way, I didn't say that for you, Patrick. Sorry. Thanks for streaming, brother. Let's go Islanders. I have to throw that one in for you, even though those words certainly cannot come out of my mouth. Any trades before the deadline, or they wait until the 3rd? I think that's going to be an interesting situation, Jay, and I think there is going to be trades. There's definitely going to be some trades that are going to be made. I could see the Rangers waiting till the 3rd, though, seeing if some prices can come down. That would be something. Oh, by the way, actually, my cousin who played this song, unfortunately, he's been gone 11 years. But his daughter plays in Huntington and in Farmingdale. I got to see her at the Villager last week, Karina Antonucci. Go check her out, or even check out Karina Antonucci music on Instagram, because it's great to have a lot of talent everywhere in my family. I wonder where mine is. So, everybody, thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to be back. Look for more segments from this show and some more segments that we're going to be doing throughout the week. Thank you very much, and take care.